Alright, so I recently played through a bit of Midnight Club LA. Noticed how I said played through instead of finished, like usual, because, right off the bat I'll say it, and probably titled the video as such, but man, this was disappointing. That's not to say this is a bad game by any means. It functions properly. But I don't know, to me it just didn't really have a lot of strengths, nor strengths that were really appealing to me. I could still see how people, especially more hardcore racing game fans, would enjoy it though. But I'm more on the casual side. I'm not very good at these games, and this game wasn't very accommodating for that, especially compared to the competition. And you also got to factor in too, I was really looking forward to this game for a bit. And maybe that's part of the problem too, is I set expectations too high. But I just remember being in the mood for a general racing game and picking others to, save this one. I don't know, almost a save the best for last or save it for a rainy day type thing. But I sort of ran out of excuses in other games in the genre that I was looking forward to anywhere near as close as this one. And it has to do, honestly, with just that golden square with an R in the middle on the box. That's what I think Nintendo was kind of going for with the seal of approval. Because when you see the Rockstar Games logo, you know you're in for a quality, great experience. Just about no matter what they're trying. And even, keeping in mind this is the Grand Theft Auto developer. Now, granted, I believe this was the Red Dead team, actually, which is separate from the GTA team, but still within the same company. I'm sure what do I know, but they probably share some, resources and such. At least the engine, if they wanted to. And maybe that in itself should have been a little concern, because I'll admit, the street racing in GTA isn't my favorite. It's fine for what it is, and I feel like, there's potential, especially if you have a game focused on it. And two, this series in particular game is generally loved. I probably have some, you know, unpopular opinions about it. But yeah, one of the first issues I sort of noticed right away, and this is an issue in GTA as well, but for the most part, maybe, I don't know, 80% of the time, I think the checkpoints are laid out just fine. You just, sort of stay on the track if it's not within view, follow the arrows, and you should be all good to go. But sometimes, and enough to be noticeable, you'll just find an awkward checkpoint that's not really visible, and then it's also, maybe a little off to the side where you should have really made a different turn, and you're sort of glancing at the mini map, which is kind of off to the side. And a lot of times when you do that, you wind up crashing into a random car or wall, which, I don't know, I guess they may have been going for a more realistic approach. I feel like a lot of games, like you'll even see the arrow is there with the mini map, where a lot of times you'll have it, above your car. And that would, match more of, an actual car, looking at your GPS and that. But it just wound up leading to a lot of frustrations and a couple events. One in particular was a pink slips race that I wound up losing like 2 or 3 cars on. And they do have, dedicated events where there is no checkpoint and you kind of have to look at your mini map to get from, start to finish. Those are the only 2 checkpoints. And that, it kind of makes sense, especially, it being its own event. But for like these, point over point, or I think, the circuit races they have too. No, especially to like, I forgot how brutal a racing game can sometimes be, like, honestly. I'm really thankful, some of the other modern ones have a rewind feature, so if you fuck up, you don't feel like you just wasted 10 minutes. Because here it's just like, sometimes you'll crash real early or really late and it'll just be all over. And it's as opposed to a lot of other, games and genres where you can maybe go more on the defensive, maybe you can regenerate some health and still sort of attempt a comeback. But here, it may be too late, impossible to catch the leader and still win the race, whether it's at the very end or very beginning. Definitely worse at the very end, though. Especially considering some of the lengths. I'll admit my attention span with some of these games kind of fits the Mario Kart style, I guess, where those races are probably an average, maybe 2.5, 3 minutes. So it's kind of like when I reach that point in a race in this game, I'm kind of looking like, okay, how many checkpoints? And oh, fuck, I haven't even completed a lap yet. And there's 2 of them. That's more of a personal taste thing, though. Some people probably prefer the later ones, but especially 2, it makes me really want Rewind more, because then you're just... I haven't felt this way in a while, but there was just some times with this game I just felt like I was completely... like, fuck, I just wasted all this time. Oh yes, I think I lose this race because of that big mistake there, which... maybe in that scenario, when you're running into a gas station, maybe that's a little more deserved. Although I think I made a few other mistakes, because at that point, like, sometimes you just get more desperate to not waste time, but especially that early, I should have just restarted. Another big disappointment was the cop chases, which are in this game. It's hard to remember that sometimes, because that was something I was really looking forward to, especially considering Grand Theft Auto does such a good job of that. I know this isn't GTA, but I mean, seeing how well some of the Need for Speed games do with it too, and that, like, I was going into this expecting, like, Need for Speed Most Wanted or Hot Pursuit, and instead I feel like I got Underground. Oh, I kept fucking up the one. I think, yeah, your special ability is left bumper. I kept hitting the right bumper, which switches your view. I don't know why. I think because I was experimenting with some of the different abilities, which was kind of a cool feature, I will say, but not really a game saver for me. But yeah, I don't know, switching it just sort of fucked up my brain with it. But yeah, I think, and I played through maybe 2/3, 3/4 of the full story mode, and I think there was only like 2 cop chase races. And then other than that, they're just sort of in the open world, but then they're just kind of annoying, because in the open world, there's not a lot to do. You're just trying to get to point A to point B to do, your next event. So you really don't want to deal with them. I'm just there letting myself get arrested and pay the fine because I just don't care. And it just sucks because I think they could have been really fun. And that's not to say the game couldn't have been fun without it. I just compared it to Need for Speed Underground, which is a fantastic game. Or I've only played the second one, but at least that one was pretty good. I assume the first one probably was as well. It seems to have a very similar reception, but even there, you at least had some cool event variety. Like, I really liked the drag races and the drift races. Here, it's just all kind of the same. The only, like, unique thing they really had, well, they had time travels, which is boring. I fucking hate them. They are rarely, if ever, actually fun. Or maybe I wasn't paying that close attention. Did I win the last one? This might be the one I lost when I fucked up early. But yeah, and I think like, actually not test drive, driver actually did them pretty decently. Like, sometimes when they do stuff with gates you go through, or slalom or whatever it's called, which is more of a skiing thing, but I've seen it in some racing games too, that it can be kind of fun with that. But when it's just a plain, hey, go around the track as fast as you can, it's just boring, in my opinion. And there was like another special event, and maybe there's another one I just never unlocked, but there was one where you had to sort of take out another car, but it just wasn't super fun, and then you had to do like 5 in a row to get your reward, and given how tight things were to begin with, I just knew I wasn't going to complete it, and it just really wasn't worth it, especially when there's games that just do that so much better. Which is just like a general theme of the game, honestly. Like, why would I play this as opposed to, maybe trying out the first Need for Speed Underground or something else, It was just painfully mediocre for me. The main strengths I could think of, too, are one, I was playing on a Series X, but the game looks really good. But that doesn't really matter if, you're not having fun playing it. The other strength, though, it has is car customization, but once again, it reminds me of the Smash moveset customization where I went in, oh, they have some cool options here. Oh, wait, most of them are locked behind progression? Well, hopefully I'll get to it later, and then I just, maybe after checking it out with another car and realize I'm not really that close to unlocking it, I just sort of give up on the whole thing. Especially, too, like I said, I suck and I lost a couple cars, but, I still feel like even without that, money would have been kind of tight to, try to get the performance upgrades and new cars and such to where, it doesn't feel smart to be using your money on cosmetics. So just the execution, just in my opinion, wasn't that great. And hell, I feel like sometimes even the upgrades or new cars you get wouldn't really even feel that great because at least in the story, everything sort of scales with you. So maybe you'll be a little bit better, but I don't know. It's just like sometimes with one of these games, you can get a car, upgrade it, and it feels good to kick everyone's ass and, for a little bit after everything you invested right there. But you don't really get that satisfaction here. Performance upgrades were locked even too, and some of the cars you can buy, which I thought kind of sucked too. Why not just lock it by, the general price range? If someone wants to go around and the first shit car you get and save their money and get a fancy car a little earlier, then let them. Other than that, the game has a little bit of a personality. I will say the radio, I don't know if they removed songs or not, but it was kind of interesting because you'll go like back and forth between like a rap and like a rock song, which is kind of interesting. I'm surprised they didn't have like radio stations. Like, I think that would have been a pretty common thing in GTA by that point. Not a super big deal, but just seemed kind of strange. But yeah, they also have, some of the people banter before the races, which can be a little entertaining, I guess, to see what one-liners they come up with. Oh, the one thing that was annoying, too, is that there's like a tutorial thing, and maybe you can turn it off. I never figured out how. I didn't bother, but it's like, when you stop a set of races, you always got a call about some feature or whatnot, and it blocks your GPS screen that you want to see to get to the next event, which is very annoying. And yikes, at this point, I just can't believe it. This is probably the first game in a while that I've just haven't finished. I just got to a point where it's just like, I'm done. And I just, like I said, with who made it and the reputation of the, whole series, actually, like, I still surprised. I was not expecting it at all, but it's kind of funny, too, because I feel like there would have been a sweet spot to stop, because I remember in the middle, I'm like, maybe I'll play a Need for Speed game or something after this to sort of scratch more of the itch I was anticipating here, but at the end of it, I'm just like, okay, I don't feel like playing another racing game now. At least, sort of the next game on my backlog. But yeah, I guess if they ever revive it, which I kind of doubt. Because I was even thinking, like, you used to see that Rockstar symbol once or twice a year, and now you see it once or twice a decade. But, who knows? But if it does get brought back, I would definitely need to see some, decent changes to address some of the many things I've mentioned here to even, consider giving it a shot, which is, kind of unfortunate, but what are you going to do?